Hi, my name is Naveen Singri. I'm a physician. I'm a nephrologist with Ohio Kidney Consultants, and I work at Ohio Health. My family on both sides were physicians, so I grew up in a physician household. My father was an internist at the VA in Dayton, therefore I always had medicine in my life. So in high school, medicine really intrigued me because of my exposure to my father. However, I wasn't 100% sure. So when I went to college, I was still debating between medicine or a different career. In high school, I did a summer camp week at Case Western University, where I spent a week in the dorms at Case Western as a high school junior, going to different medical talks and learning experiences. At that point, I realized that being a physician was something I really wanted to work for as I went into my college years. I did pretty well in high school. I went to Beaver Creek High School in Dayton, Ohio. It's a D1 school with 600 kids. Back then we didn't have all the credited scores that you guys have now. I think I had a 4.1. I was ranked number 17 in my class out of 625. So top few percentage of my class. I did study pretty hard in high school. I had very strict parents, so I got mostly A's. Did pretty well on the SAT and ACT test as well. So yes, I had pretty good grades in high school, but I also worked really hard to get those grades. When I looked at choosing a college, I wanted a few things. I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, so I wanted to be a little farther away from my parents to have some independence. Initially, I looked at state schools to be somewhat close to home, but I actually wanted to go to Duke University, North Carolina. At that time, Duke was considered, obviously a really, really good school, and I liked their college basketball team. Unfortunately, my grades weren't good enough to get into Duke. Therefore, I decided to go to Ohio State. It was an hour away. I had several of my high school friends who went to Ohio State, and I'm a diehard Buckeye football and basketball fans, so I really wanted to experience big-time college athletics. In college, it was interesting. Most of my classmates who were pre-med, you had to choose a major at Ohio State. Most of them chose biology, chemistry, zoology, a science course. I still wasn't 100% sure I wanted to do medical school, so I wanted to have a backup degree in case medical school didn't work out, either because I didn't get in or because I chose a different career. So I actually was a little bit different at Ohio State. I actually majored in economics and did the honors program at OSU. My thought was I'd either become an investment banker on Wall Street or go to medical school. Interestingly, economics degree, when you look at majors of medical school admissions, economics majors had the highest acceptance rate in a medical school when I was at Ohio State. I think it was like 76% of econ majors got into medical school, so I chose that for that reason as well. And I'm actually glad I made that choice. I did a lot of business classes and of course science classes, and I really enjoyed the microeconomics in my course load at OSU. My senior year, I had to make a choice, and I decided to apply to medical school, and I did get into medical school and decided to go instead of going to Wall Street and becoming a banker. It has helped me today because I do a lot of investing in real estate, in my medical practice, and having a little bit of business background has helped me nurture those entities and investments over my career. For medical school, I actually went to University of Cincinnati. I really wanted to go into Ohio State for medical school because I was already on campus. All my best friends were there from the high school and my dorm and my fraternity. It's interestingly, I was told by my counselor at Ohio State that based on my grades, being an honors program, economics, my MCAT scores, that I'd be a shoo-in to get into Ohio State. So I actually did early decision to medical school at Ohio State, and I didn't get in. So I was pretty upset about that. And so I then had to go through the regular process, and I got into Cincinnati Medical School right away. So I took the spot there, and then 2 weeks before med school started, I got a call from OSU Med School saying, "Hey Naveen, we have a spot opened up for you." As people started declining their their admissions. Back then you could hold 5 admission letters and not tell people till the end. That's different now. So by the last month, people started saying no to schools. I was on the wait list for Ohio State. By that point, I already had an apartment at Cincinnati, I had my books already picked out, and I was a little bit perturbed that they would wait till the last minute to give me a spot when I was one of their own undergrads and had a really good resume. So I ended up going to University of Cincinnati Medical School, which was a really good experience. I met a lot of new people at Cincinnati. It was a different town. It made me make new friends and not just count on my old friends in Columbus to hang out with. Cincinnati is a great city with many different hospital systems within 2 miles of each other. So I had a great experience at the private hospital, the academic hospital, the veterans hospital, and I had a really great student class to learn with. We studied hours and hours together. We would play ping pong together on breaks, go get food, obviously go to the bars after tests to celebrate a week of studying straight. Actually, 2 weekends ago was my 25-year med school reunion at Cincinnati, and I saw a lot of my old friends that I've become close to with over the years. So that was good to reminisce. But yeah, med school Cincinnati, loved it. Highly recommend it to whoever is going into medical school. I think one of the best in Ohio and in the Midwest for sure. Studying, like in high school, continues in college and beyond. Ohio State, when I went to Ohio State, it was very easy to get in. It's much harder to get into Ohio State now with a much stronger student body. I graduated high school in 1989, and back then, all you had to do was sign an application and you were in. So there was no GPA minimum. It was considered kind of the weakest state school to get in Ohio. That's obviously changed now for all of you. I remember that in some of my classes, there was a high failure rate, high dropout rate. It was obviously a big party school. And there were tests that I would go in on, and I'd get a 94% on a test. There'll be a class average of 58%, so I'd get 25% add on to my curve. So I'd have like 115% on test. There was even one semester, one quarter, we were quarters back then. There was one quarter where I had such a high grade going in the finals that if I got 0 in the final, I still had an A in the class. So, I studied hard, I got good grades, but realized that back then Ohio State, especially in the early years of your course load, wasn't very strong. Junior, senior year, when I was more in the honors courses, upper level courses, people hadn't failed out, it was definitely tougher. I did study, several hours a week. I did have a 3.95. I was Dean's List all 11 quarters I was there. I had credit from high school from AP courses, so I actually graduated in 3.5 years. I graduated early from Ohio State. Medical school is different. Medical school, everyone's a stud. Everyone is smart. I studied really, really hard. I'm smart, but I'm not photographic memory smart. So I really had to study over and over again to learn concepts and memorize equations and antibiotics and formulas and all those things. I think in medical school, our class was 175. I think I finished class rank number 23, so still pretty good, but I studied a lot to get there. Before our exams, midterms, we would study, have class all day. We couldn't skip class back then because everything was all paper, nothing was online like you guys have now virtually. I would probably study 2, 3, 4 hours a day. If it was a weekend before a test, I would study from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m., 12 hours a day with breaks every couple hours for, again, ping pong or foosball or grabbing food with my friends. So you're talking 8 to 10 hour days of studying in medical school. For the step 1 boards, we would study 2-3 weeks in a row, 10, 12 hours a day for 2-3 weeks in a row to prepare for those tests, which were obviously important for your placement and residency later on. 3rd and 4th year medical school, it's more rotational, where you're doing rotations in the hospitals. You have tests here and there, but nothing like first 2 years of medical school. So it was more working on the wards, long hours, overnight call, and test here and there. So it was a different studying, a different stress level in 3rd and 4th year of medical school. But definitely, I tell everyone now that medical school, the hardest part is actually getting in. Once you're in, it's really hard to fail medical school, but it's hard to do very well in medical school, if that makes any sense at all. So once you're in medical school, you're not going to fail, but if you want to be top 10, 20%, you have to really, really work hard. Right. So in medical school, you have to decide what kind of career you want to choose. And that comes on you pretty quick. The first years of medical school are all didactic, lectures, memorization, test. Then third and fourth year, you do your clinical rotations. There you do OBGYN, surgery, internal medicine, other electives. And you've got to figure out pretty quick whether or not, what you want to do in life, because you have to apply for it, by your fourth year. So there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress on a lot of people. Now, some people know what they want to be because their dad was a surgeon or their aunt was a pediatrician, but a lot of us didn't know what we want to do. First year medical school, you do gross anatomy, where we all had a cadaver that we worked on. I knew pretty quickly that being a surgeon and cutting was not what I wanted to do in my career. Two of my buddies in my group knew right away that they wanted to be surgeons. So right away I knew that I did not want to be a surgeon. So I had to decide, okay, do I want to do internal medicine, pediatrics, dermatology, things like that. So in the third year, all of us do rotations in medical school. You do 6 weeks of surgery, 6 weeks of OBGYN, 6 weeks of medicine, 6 weeks of pediatrics. And you figure out pretty quick what you like and don't like. And then fourth year, you do more electives on things that you had interest in third year. But pretty much by, so middle of fourth year, you have to really narrow down what you want to apply for. So that's called the match. You may have heard the term residency match. In fourth year, you may go to an outside program. Let's say I live in Columbus, Ohio, or Cincinnati, Ohio, but I want to go to Chicago for my residency for whatever reason. You might do an away rotation. So you have to apply for that, go to a new city for 4 to 6 weeks, find a place to live, and maybe show yourself to the people there. If they like you as a student, then they may offer you a spot. So the most stressful part for all of us was match day, which is sometime, I think, in early to mid-March. You rank where you want to go, what specialty on a computer-based system. You've applied to these programs by essays, applications, pictures, and they may have interviewed. They interview as well, and then you put in a match list. Each program puts in a match list. Then a computer kind of figures out who goes where. Very stressful, but on match day, we all gathered in our lecture room with our favorite professors, all 175 of us. And then one by one, they called you to the front of the whole room. You would take your envelope and you'd announce where you'd be spending the next few years of your life doing residency. So obviously, your best friends are there, and you're opening up your envelope. Well, obviously, if you got the place you wanted to go, you were ecstatic and happy. But obviously, some people opened up their envelope and didn't get where they wanted to go in front of the whole crowd, which was obviously disappointing for some people. But that's called the match to residency. And then once you're matched, it's kind of like for senioritis, like in high school. Last 3 months are kind of, you got a place to go, finishing up 4 years of medical school, finishing up rotations, it's springtime, having fun with your friends, and then figuring out the next part of your life, finding an apartment in this new city you're going to be going to, roommates, etc. So exciting time, but a stressful time, that 4th year of medical school. So I matched in internal medicine, which is general medicine. I matched in Chicago at Northwestern. I've always been an Ohio kid, and I wanted to go to a big city, so I was excited to be in Chicago. I went there for 6 years for my training, downtown Chicago, by Michigan Avenue, Water Tower Place, Lake Michigan. I had a great time there. In your residency, you do a lot of learning, training on the job. I then did a fellowship in nephrology, which is I'm a specialist in kidney medicine. I'm not a surgeon, so patients with diabetes, high blood pressure, genetic conditions develop kidney disease, kidney failure. Often they need to go on dialysis or things like that. So that's my specialty that I did at Northwestern Chicago, and then I came back to Columbus for the job with my practice that I've been there for 19 years now. Overall, it's been a long road. 4 years undergrad, 4 years high school, 4 years undergrad, 4 years medical school, and then 6 years of training as a resident and fellow. So you can imagine, all the time you put in training, you finally come out and then get a job. But you're always learning. Even now, 19 years later, so much has changed since I was a resident and fellow. So you're always learning new medicines, new diagnoses like COVID, new agents for cancer and with chemotherapy. So an exciting part of what I do is that then my job's not stagnant. I have to be on top of my game and keep learning to help my patients. Thank you.
All right,